All right, we're going to get started again. So again, thank you for such a spirited discussion about the values. Chuck actually, I do this so often. Chuck actually reminded me of something that is probably important to share with the group. So I'm just going to give you a few minutes, Chuck.
So some of you have been through this kind of a process before if you've ever been through strategic planning, and it can be really frustrating based on your learning style and what you're used to. And I just wanted to remind people that this is totally normal feeling of being like, what the heck are we doing this for? This drives me nuts. I don't agree with that. I like that. Why don't they listen to me? And it's a total normal process. And I think this is the growing pains of an organization. To do this kind of work when we're face-to-face is much easier than doing it virtually. Nearly impossible virtually, but to move the organization to take that next step is what we've done to just this morning. And I think it's something to remember that it's part of a process. It's not always going to be like this, but this helps to really ground an organization and helps it to grow and helps to keep the cohesiveness, especially since we're spread out all over the country. So if you're feeling frustrated, totally normal.
If you're feeling frustrated, then I'm doing my job. So great. All right. So now we get to do some visioning work, which I hope will be a little less frustrating and a little more inspiring. So what we've done here is we have, in the back, we have listed the values in the prioritized order based on your dots. Oops. So Corey is also writing them up here. Thank you, John. Is it John? No. Todd. Thanks, Todd. All right, so here is what we're going to do. So I'd like to make sure now that you are sitting with your SPP team. Are you pretty much doing that? No? Okay. Please get with your teams. Yeah. If you don't have a primary team, then I leave it up to you to place yourself where you'd like to be.
Yeah, LA's coming with us.
All right.
Craig, you can sit right here. No, you're good. No, there's room for all of us. Oh, you're taking Todd with you?
All right, are we in our teams? Okay, so here is the process. I'm basically posing one big question to you to inform your thinking, your questioning, and as a framework for your visioning. So here's the question. If financial and human resources were abundant, if our thinking were expansive, if there was a deep level of agreement and buy-in, what's that? If safety were assured, if partnerships were strong, how could this network change lives, communities, the environment, and the world? Okay? And here, so this is the question. here's how we're going to do the process. So I want you to really consider that very big question. And I'll put the question back up in just a minute. I want you to really think about what could be possible if those things were in place. Okay, what could be possible? And again, obviously, we're thinking of our vision in a very aspirational way. And what I'd like you to do is to start by writing down some individual responses, just from your individual perspective, on the index cards that are at your table. And we have more and plenty if you need more. And I want you just to write down as many individually. I want you to write down as many ideas.
But he's here too.
Questions back here? We're good? We're strategizing. Already? Hold on. Okay. So I want you to write down as many ideas as you have individually, sort of one idea per card. One big idea per card. Okay? I'm going to put the question back up in just a minute. And then I'm going to ask you to quickly go around your group and share your ideas. And as a group, I'd like you to sort those ideas into like piles. Okay, like ideas. Then I'm going to ask you to do something that's slightly more difficult. I'm going to ask you to translate your aspirational ideas into a slightly more realistic set of goals or ideas. So I just am giving you one very simple example here. So again, if resources were abundant, if we were well supported, if we had tons of buy-in, our aspirational goal might be that we get to hire a whole team of SPP network community relations experts, like a whole team, to support national projects and individual teams. Okay, that could be our aspirational goal. I'm going to ask you as a group to translate those core aspirational goals then into more achievable, slightly realistic goals, like could we develop a standard SPP network media kit that could be used and adapted by teams? Okay, does that make sense as a process?
Think big and then think small.
I want you to think really big, okay? And then what I'm going to ask you to do is to share these more kind of realistic, achievable, still stretch goals with the full group. And we're going to bring around big sheets of paper so that what we want from each team are what are your distilled, realistic stretch goals, okay, in terms of your vision for what the network could do, what the network could provide.
Is there a time horizon to this?
Yes.
Ideally, no.
Okay.
No, seriously, if we're talking realistic over what period of time?
So we're going to move into action planning in just a bit. So
Okay.
let me ask the group. What do you think? Too constraining. All right. So we're going to leave that for now, okay? All right. Any questions about the process? Carrie?
A clarifying point.
Yep.
What is possible or what could be possible? Like what is possible is like what's possible today. But what could be, I mean those if, all those ifs were not currently realities. So are we thinking about what could, so is it what is possible under current constraints, or given all those other things, what could be a possibility?
What could be? This is our visioning, right? What could be possible?
Great, thank you.
Okay? What could be possible? So in our visioning, we are not constrained by our current or present reality. Okay? Questions?
Does it matter which cards we use? We have different types.
Doesn't matter. No, those are just for your individual ideas and thoughts.
I just want to clarify, this is, we're envisioning for the group, not for our team, but for the entire group, correct?
So I want you to think how these ideas could benefit the network, but the reason that I've grouped you back in teams is I want it to come from your team experience, okay? Based on your team's experience, your team's best thinking, okay? But yes, beyond your individual team. This is a network aspiration, okay? Great questions. Anything else? All right, please begin And I am going to go back to the previous slide here. Okay, so here is the visioning question. I'm going to give you about only 5 to 7 minutes to write your individual ideas here, okay? When you sort of run out of energy and steam, you'll know when to stop, and that's fine. Okay, as many as you have, please.
So are we supposed to write both a really big one and a realistic?
I want you to start really big.
Okay.
Okay?
Just the big.
Just the big.
All right.
Then we're gonna, again, as I described, then what we'll do is we'll have everybody describe their big ideas. We'll have you as a group sort those into like piles. And then we want the group to translate those into more realistic kind of stretch goals for the network. Okay? All right, I'll be coming around. So please begin. Let me just check in. We're at 5 minutes. How many folks are feeling like you're done? Okay, we'll go for a few more minutes.
Well, I got myself going, but I have like 15.
Okay, take one more minute, please, to finish up. Just hold one sec. Okay, finish up. Any last thoughts you have? All right, here's what I'd like to do next. So first I'm going to ask a favor so that we're not wasting paper and cards. Cards that are not written on, if at your tables you could just put them into one pile so that we can use those again. That would be great.
So you just got to take one.
All right, I'm going to give you, hold on. Okay. So while Adrian's finishing, sorry, that was my pause holding on. While Adrian's finishing, what I would like you to do now is each take really just a minute to share your big ideas with the group, okay? So please just take a turn, somebody start, and we'll just go around the table and share your ideas, okay? Please begin.
Yeah, I like that. You got to have a closing statement. Saturday Night Live is a TV show.
So what I'd like you to do, guys, then, once you sort of translated those, is to put that on paper. Okay? So guys, I just want to mention something really quick. As you're sharing and starting to sort these into like piles and like ideas, and then to translate those sort of piles into some aspirational but realistic stretch goals. I told Dan that I kind of lifted this yesterday. So this is really a metaphor, right, for exactly what I'm asking you to do, the toilet paper.
Do we need to take a break or?
Well put, Todd.
Todd, do you need a? Okay. This is a big idea translated into a realistic, tangible, achievable, yet a really kind of a stretch goal, a stretch idea. Okay? This is the metaphor. Okay? You might want to share that.
All right, okay, Rip. So first, as grouper, I'm writing. Tell me what to write.
So you're just checking out.
I'm listening.
Are we trying to narrow it down again?
Okay, so I like the idea of being kind of specific, like the toilet paper roll, but that's,
So that was nice.
some of these ideas
They're watching
lend
back
themselves
home.
better to that than others, so.
I think you're doing a good job. Oh, wow. Pass that on.
Appreciate that.
Yeah, I think you do it after lunch, people will drink. They will fall asleep after.
All right. All right, guys. What's that?
Not to rush you or.
No, no, no.
Yeah.
It's what works. Okay. So we would like to hear. We would like to hear from the teams about your aspirational, stretch, yet realistic goals. Maybe we'll ask Marilyn, since you guys were really clear and got those done quickly. Chris, I don't know if you want to come up. Okay. And we're just going to ask you to just very quickly read it, kind of give us a conceptual idea of what you're talking about.
Okay, so we probably jumped right to the second part, which was translating what we thought was a big stretch and lofty idea to something realistic right away. Provide science to guide sustainability policy in general. And so if there can be a collaboration with scientists and the facilities managers, then some of the practices might be able to be translated into, sorry, not used to being the MC, be able to be translated into sustainability action, to inform sustainability action plans, and this is what we're doing in Maryland. Make available a comprehensive set of evaluation educational tools as guidelines. So we thought that the network could be a repository for things that could be very specific and targeted, or very broad in terms of outreach, education, as well as evaluation, since we're all being made accountable for what we do. And then translate facilities management to other venues, understanding that correctional facilities have their own set of restrictions and guidelines and special circumstances. It does seem reasonable to, it doesn't seem like a stretch to say that, well, if we were able to implement a recycling plan that recovered, that was at 90% efficient, that how that happens should be able to be extended to other venues like educational institutions, mental health facilities, the military, dare I say, and so on. And then the last was, we actually came up with this one first, but then we looked at, well, you have to have all the funding. I mean, if you had all the funding available and had all the human resources available, what would you do? That's not going to happen. And so, but what often doesn't happen is having a dedicated fundraising staff or dedicated proposal writer. A lot of medical schools have this, for example. A lot of networks have this, for example. And so we put that as fourth, more as a, we threw that out there as an idea. Whether it's relevant to this exercise or not, I'm not too sure.
Thank you.
Great, yes, no.
Washington.
Some of us were thinking very, very big, and then we had to rein it back to what we thought is approachable for the SPP network and or SPP Washington. So some of these are a mix of both, since we're currently kind of managing both. So for the network, we definitely hope to develop a comprehensive evaluation plan with all of you and make those resources available and the data sharing. We hope to write a full implementation grant to NSF and that informal science education program to fund the network and hopefully provide pockets of funding for some of your emerging programs. I don't know if I understand the distillation of that one. Oh, yeah. So one of our goals was to basically change the way everyone thinks about prison. So to do more community outreach and kind of a traveling lecture on SPP and the model to communities all over the state or country. To drag in some sustainability scientists to really study these prisons as model systems for how sustainable humans can be. And I have lead on one, but it's really hard to find good collaborators. So that's why you're all here. You're already good collaborators. We have a local juvenile detention center called Green Hill. We're going to try to expand to. We've been talking with them. So that's kind of a doable one for SPP Washington. We also hold an annual Earth Day fair, but we thought instead of having it just be about the earth, why not bring in people who'd be willing to hire inmates post-release so that they get that interaction with green job employers while they're still incarcerated. We thought we could maybe manage one new certificate program. That's a realistic goal. But we also think we could work to have conservation programs in every prison in Washington. We'd like to do more with families and visitors when they come to prisons and have there be SPP-related materials and activities and lectures for family members. It would be really cool at one of the PhD giving institutions. So my institution doesn't give out PhDs, but SPP would be a perfect IGERT program. I'm looking at Chris Swan. Getting poison out of prison. So we're kind of thinking about the next green purchasing goal is about cleaning supplies. Oh, I'm sorry. IGERT is Interdisciplinary Graduate Education Research and Training Program. I think I got all the letters right. They are scattered all over the country, so they train PhD students in interdisciplinary work. And this program, it's a shoo-in.
Thank you. Utah?
Let me just move this. We are the Beehive State. I just thought you guys should know that. So ours actually overlap quite a bit. We want to continue to spread the SPP word to new sites and new non-correction sites, other institutions. We've talked about assisted living centers or schools or Army barracks or whatever. Establishing industry standards for green operations, that's partially done, but we want to see that expanded. We thought that one way to unite the network in the future would be to set up some sort of collaborative, replicated study across all prisons. It might be something like growing crickets that everybody tries to do and tries to benefit from. The data are collected with it and deposited at the network, and then the data would be analyzed by an expert in that field. So that's something that there's a network called the Long-Term Ecological Research Network that similarly is scattered across the country, but is united by a number of these wonderful cross-site experiments and studies. So, and then finally create communication mechanisms to connect corrections with scientists and society. That is to maybe set up blogs or newsletters or have an established op-ed in the newspaper that would bring information from society to prisons, but also what inform people in society about SPP. There was one more, I think, that kind of is our goal to sort of have the final word in all of this, and we'll just write it down this way. Oops, SPP equals a blank box. And by that, what we mean is that basically in a number of years, we would like ourselves to go extinct. We would like to be so good, we would like our vision to be so big and so permeating that in fact we don't have to talk about SPP because it will be incorporated in the constituent institutions. It's like when a library was first thought of, somebody said, gee, it'd be a good idea to have a library. Well, now we don't question that every community has a library that's supported by local government because we know how important that library system is to humans in our community. So we would like to see basically SPP in X number of years disappear itself.
Great. Thank you, Nalini. Please, who'd like to go next? Yeah.
Oregon. The Beaver State.
Right.
Okay, here.
So you wrote it in orange rather than green.
All right, so Oregon is the Beaver State, and the colors are black and orange if you're from Oregon State University. If you're from University of Oregon, it's ducks, which has nothing to do with beavers, so I don't even understand. You can tell where I'm from. Let's see, I'll focus over here first. Our first broad goal was achieving net zero facilities, and that we thought achievable nearer term stretches were to conduct an inventory of the inefficient and outdated equipment at all of the facilities, whether that be in Oregon or throughout our network, as a place to start, and then identify opportunities for collaborative purchasing across prison facilities, and that could be across states. So if there's a need for new boilers and that need is similar across certain facilities, then why not leverage that commonality? And then also, this gets back to what Carrie talked about earlier of a kind of a common evaluation and reporting form. And we brought that up here as a place to report accomplishments on achieving net zero facilities. But then we realized rapidly that that's broader, and this common reporting of achievements transcends this topic. For the SPP network funding clearinghouse, so we're thinking money. You know, it's all about money. So how do we facilitate funding for these various programs? And so that can include generating some assistance at the SPP network headquarters, whether that be at Evergreen or wherever, and then and have as an achievable goal in the near term simply the identification of national opportunities that are distributed to the group. Because some opportunities will be state-specific and they'll be very idiosyncratic across states. That's too much to do in the near term, but an achievable stretch is to identify these national opportunities and let everybody know about those. And of course, look for opportunities to collaborate. One idea we had was the same as what Nalini came up with, is nationally coordinated research projects. And I just love this idea. So identify a research question and potential facilities would be a first step. And whether that's growing crickets or doing restoration research or something about, you know, the sky's the limit, but a restoration or an ecological question that can be addressed at multiple facilities that can really dramatically enhance the generalizability of those results and engage prisoners in the scientific process. That's very exciting to me. Moving over here, the post-release programs in conservation and science. So that's the broad goal, is to get some of these inmates, once they've been through these processes, these programs, into actual jobs. So to start with, identifying an inventory of existing programs that are already out there and how we can interact with those. And then also identify the post-release job opportunities that are out there, and then link those to the vocational training that we're providing both inside and outside the prison setting, so that we're providing the right kind of training for the jobs that are available. Going on and on. We couldn't stop with ideas. We were going for it. A lot of support for nature imagery in all facilities. So we want to first build the research case so that we can make a compelling argument to facilities managers that this is a good idea and will work, will help. And then in each participating state, start implementing this in one facility per year. Let's just start and get, you know, you start with the low-hanging fruit. Those facilities that are most supportive, start with them, and then they'll convince their neighbors. a science lecture series in all facilities. And then we've talked about that kind of thing before, so that was an easy one. And our near term was to implement in one facility per year. Let's just get started and start moving forward with it. And then build over time. We also added a side comment here that using corrections as restorative justice ecosystem partner. Do you want to say anything more about that?
I was just saying one of our spheres of influence in corrections is the justice system, and how can we better work with the entire justice system to, focus on people and give them what they need in order to pay their debt to society and then become functioning members of that society again.
Okay, two more. Transforming public understanding of prison systems. So that's really about changing the image of prisons and prison facilities in the minds of the general public. And so a near-term stretch is to get at least one published story per year in the media and make contacts to national media, because you want things to go to AP. You want to reach a broader audience with these stories, so they have to be compelling. And then finally, to do endangered species conservation and implement that in one facility per year. So that's ours.
Impressive. Thank you so much. Great. Can we have LA, Santa Clara?
So we're Team California. Golden State, everybody has a swimming pool and everybody's a movie star. That's true. So we are, we took a deep look at this, and so our first project was SPP to seek out funding, not necessarily grant funding, could be donations, but any source of funding that we can kind of put in one repository, and then the affiliates can request funds as needed based on whatever the project is, and SPP can kind of administer that and manage that. So it's a central resource of funding that the individual systems don't have to seek themselves, because it could be tedious, and some of the smaller jails only have maybe one person working on these things. SPP to support to create support teams for the affiliates, so that we can have support teams from SPP actually come out to our sites, kind of give us information, education on site based on our individual jail or prison system, and also to help us with our assessment of our projects. And and selling ideas, correct. SPP repository, to create a repository of knowledge for best practices. I think we've heard that a couple times already, but similar to what the National Institute of Corrections is where you have your best practices, you have information coming from all different resources, all different jail and prison systems, and then they kind of collect it and put it together in one library. So SPP would be that library of knowledge and best practices for sustainability. Next, it'd be the SPP national, have a national PR system in place. What we were really talking about is making sustainability in prisons and jails chic. Now, right now, what we do is everybody got used to recycling at home. I mean, we all have a recycling bin, we have a yard waste and clippings, and we have our garbage, right? And that's kind of like commonplace now. And to go to a mall, go to a store, and you have a plastic bottle, most people walk up and they don't just throw in the trash anymore. They're like, no, that's recycle. Oh, okay. So we want to, so the idea is, how do we make sustainability in prisons more chic, in jails? And the reason I say that is I attended a conference in September for a state sheriff's jail associations. It was a jail conference, and I sat at a table with 6 or 7 different agencies, and I talked about our Washington conference and what we were trying to do in Santa Clara and what LA was doing. And around the table, I had one agency say, I'm interested, you know, here's my card, send me some information. Everyone else was kind of like, well, don't tell my sheriff that, you know, or we don't want to jump on board on that. But that's because they didn't have the information, the knowledge that we did. And so how do we make it chic? So we're thinking of a national PR effort maybe a 20-minute segment on Dateline or 2020 where we can highlight, what Washington has done. Supplement biannual or annual conferences with teleconferencing, so that maybe once a quarter we can get together via teleconferencing and share ideas. And then have SPP expand its efforts, not just in prisons and jails, but other smaller community groups, rest homes, schools, Girl Scouts, Boy Scouts, that kind of thing, and give them the knowledges and the knowledge and the ideas that they would need to get something started, even at a small scale. And one of the ideas is also somehow connecting the families of the inmates that are participating in these programs with the inmate by maybe having like a quarterly visit day where they can come in and participate in planting in a garden or something to that effect. And lastly, lobby our state and federal governments to maybe make some changes in the laws as to requirements for jails and prisons on recycling and sustainability efforts. Okay? I don't know.
He got promoted 10 days, captain.
Oh, that's right.
Thank you, Team California. Now we're going to hear from Team California Remote. So let me turn it over to Antonia.
I'll put up the post-it in a minute, but they wanted to establish a dedicated individual empowered with the authority at each facility to develop the necessary outside resources and outreach efforts to develop a training curriculum and certification program that translates to future sustainable employment upon inmate release. So that was their addition.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. And Ohio.
Sure, thanks. The first thing we talked about was having a national conference, much like this, but being able to repeat it with a larger audience of scientists and people from corrections and educators. So just repeating this on a larger scale. Locate or build regional facilities for SPP research projects, just a way for us to continue to network regionally. Expanding education beyond corrections to elementary, middle, high school on SPP and environmental initiatives. Providing resources, books, manuals, videos, maybe an SPP movie to kind of share the story. Resources to influence prison policies to increase the amount of time inmates get to actually spend engaged in education, because there's a lot of time like counting and things like that, without compromising safety and security. Offer sustainability-related college classes. Have inmate work crews that go out restoring habitats instead of just doing the work inside, figuring out a way to get them out and doing that work as well. Raising public awareness of the Eastern Hellbender, because I think there's a lot of misinformation about whether or not they're dangerous. And we like the idea of prisons adopting, waterways where their crews would go up and clean them, or, the Keep America Beautiful kind of thing where we could adopt parks or rivers and that sort of thing.
Did we get everyone? Yeah. So.
Okay. I would need to use this.
Yeah, let me turn this back on
Okay.
for you.
So just to repeat, all this great stuff is going where next?
I'm actually going to talk with you about that at lunch.
Okay.
because my thinking is evolving about this. These plans are so powerful. So I'll talk with you about that at lunch, and we'll come back with something for you, okay? Did you just need to be online?
Yes.
Okay.
So Eric, while things are getting set up, just a couple comments. Don't overlook the corporate world. None of you have mentioned the corporate world as a partner. Now, it is a challenge sometimes because it is cross-cultural work business practices. But if SPP becomes like a nonprofit, it's far easier for the corporate world to work through a nonprofit to assist you. Many companies are going through these kinds of things with huge facilities. Many of them have systems in place for educating employees. Many of them have that technical expertise that they, potentially how they're approached, could assist you and support you in these kinds of things.
I think it's great, but also just keep in mind for with many prisons, state prisons, business is already connected to prisons and through correctional industries. And Emily and I here in Utah are talking to the head of correctional industries as well as to the Department of Corrections people, using the industrial areas where furniture is being made and where signs are being made as a locale for where education can take place. So what are the chemicals involved with lacquers and so forth? There's a lot of interest in that in the men and women who are working there. So we do have actually quite an easy avenue into certain kinds of industry by interacting with state prisons.
Because I was just mentioning to folks at Multnomah County is that Aramark has their food service. I work with Aramark on a totally different division of there, but adding into a future food contract an education component, requiring any bidders on a contract to do those things. So thinking creatively of who else can help you that you might not be sitting at the table. We tend to forget the corporate world just because it's part of our culture, unfortunately. So.
All right. So now for something more concrete. Well, we did get to concrete, I guess. Now for something more. I'm not sure. Something that you don't want to look at after lunch, but hopefully for a few minutes before lunch, in lieu of having an orientation video to the SPP network site, I just wanted to roam around there a bit so you can see what it looks like. And then I have a couple of questions to follow up with. So in my browser, which looks like it's Internet Explorer right now, I've gone to network.sustainableprisons.org. There's no triple W. I am going to log in as Julie Vanesti because she is my personal hero, and she's not an administrator. So I want to be able to see the face that I don't see. It looks different to me than it does to you. Oh, yeah. No, you're not going to see her password. And if anybody has, lost track of their username and password, just tell Fiona and I, and we'll re-enter you. And then this time, keep track. Oh! Okay, let me look. Is the first one lowercase? The first letter? Okay, I did not do that. Okay, so here's the front page. This front page is actually a blog, and so anyone who is an administrator, and we could decide we could move to a model where there's somebody on each team who's an administrator, and so they could post announcements here, and we could make it so that this is a place where the information is pushed, which means it shows up in your inbox and your email whether you want it to or not. So we would use this sparingly but strategically. There's also the idea to have a weekly digest that gets pushed out. Figure that out. On the front, on this landing page, this top post is sticky, so it's always going to be there. If you put another post, it'll go underneath unless we change that. Here are mine and Fiona's email addresses, and here's saying, notice the help page. So I'm going to go there first. Not going to review what's there, but just if you're having trouble, why not check the help page? There it is. There's a fair amount of content there already, and I'm sure there can be lots more. So that's it's an orientation page to the site. Let's see. Oh, right, so next I wanted to go to groups because I see the sort of the friend of the help page being a feedback group that Fiona made recently. So there is an SPP network site feedback. So if you wanted to make comments in this group, that we would check this group for feedback on the site, on how to organize it, what is working, what isn't working. Since this is a group, like any group, you could ask to join the group. So I'm going to ask, as Julie Vanesti, I'm going to ask to join the group. I've successfully joined the group. The default, you see in the green here, it says your group email status is no email. So when you join a group, all you're saying is that you've joined the group, and now you have the ability to comment and post things, not post as in blog post, but I think you can upload documents and things like that. Not totally sure. But so the default is that you're not going to get any email from this group. So if you want to change that, I can click here on Get Email Updates, or I can go to Email Options over here. And that's either of those links take you to the same place. You can see there's the default of no email. Oops, I'm going to scroll down, I think. And I'm going to say, okay, well, if there's feedback coming, I think I want to know about that weekly. And then I'm going to say save. There is a search up here. And right now it's a search for members. So let's say I wanted to find Jill Boone. Let's see what happens if I just put in Jill. Will it give me? Yep. If I go to Jill Boone's profile, and I look at all of the things, her existing programming, what she's trying to develop. And so let's say that I then want to see everybody who knows about composting. So I click on composting, and here's a list of everybody who has said that that is their expertise, which is a lot of people. And we're hoping, I think one of the plugins that we want to buy is a more refined way to search for expertise. But at least we got this right now. I can change the search to be, I can look for groups, I can look for forums, I can look for posts. So, once the list of groups gets too long, you can start doing a search for groups and say, where is that feedback group again? And then I assume it will pop up. Yep, there it is. Another little thing, there's this blue circle up here. I don't like this blue circle because I keep forgetting to check it. But if I hover over it, I haven't even clicked on it, I've just gone to it. I can see, oh, wow, someone invited me to this group, SBP Washington Presentation for Utah. I did invite Julie to that group. So then I could go there and accept that invitation. And she can see that she's got 2 pending friendship requests. Okay, so that's basic navigation. Do we want, and I should say, I feel like we brought a skeleton site on purpose here, and now I immediately feel like, wow, there's 1,000 things I want to do to make this more functional. And I feel like we've gone over some of those already, maybe in enough detail after the concurrent sessions yesterday. If you have more ideas about what you want to see there, that's great. I also, so there a number of things. I want people to get on there and try it out, see if it's worth it. I'd kind of like to get a sense now how people are feeling about it. And I'd also like to get a sense now of when do we start adding other people to it so there's more reason for everybody here to go there. We have a pretty long spreadsheet with a lot of email addresses on it. And so do we want to play with this for a few months and make it lots better and then invite all those people? Or do we want to make it lots better so that it's worth our time to go and invite, does anybody have opinions or feedback on any of that? I see it as all interconnected, so I hope that's not too jumbled. Yes, Carrie.
Can you make groups that are exclusive?
Yes, you can make groups that are exclusive. Oh yeah, and I wanted to do that.
So if we can make groups that are exclusive, we can create groups for our teams where we know the information we're sharing might not go to some newcomer or
Yes.
who knows.
Yeah, and that's part of that layered approach that we were talking about yesterday. That I feel like there should be some filter, and we don't know what it is yet, to just get into this site because it's invitation only. And then there's another layer of safety. So let's say Julie Van Este wants to create a group on
performance management.
Sure, on performance management, and I'm not going to put any description in here right now. And she's going to create it, and then she's going to say, this is private. I'd rather that there weren't hidden groups, but right now that is a setting, so you could even do that so nobody knows that they're being left out. I don't know. In terms of, we talked about transparency in our subgroup this morning. I don't know if we'd want to do that. Whoa, sorry, I'm not very good with this trackpad. It's, okay. Which members of this group are allowed to invite others? So then you can decide that when you start a group, when you create a group, you are the administrator of that group. There are only a few select elite right now who are administrators for the site as a whole. But if you start the group, that's your group, and you have powers that other people don't have. And so if you want everybody in your group to have those powers, extend them. Like, for instance, when I set up the Utah workshop group, I didn't realize that Antonia couldn't upload documents, and so then I just made her administrator, and then she could. And then we were sharing that group together. So anyways, yes, it's very possible to have these groups that are more private, more secure.
Can you manage documents like Google Docs here? Like we're writing proposals together?
Yes, and I did an experiment this morning. Okay, so I'm gonna, let's see. I wonder if it's just gonna let me leave this. Let's find out. Yep. So in the Utah workshop group, and in every group. So you see read-only files. Those are all of the files that Antonia has uploaded. I can go there, and there's this huge, lovely directory of different documents that I can then download to my computer. So that's lovely and functional. And then over here, there's Docs. And that functions more like a Google Doc. I did an experiment this morning, and I was pretty disappointed that, okay, so here I open the doc, here's read, here's edit. So now I can do damage. I don't know what that was. Okay. And I added something to this morning as Julie Van Este, and it's not telling me that I'm not seeing the record of it. There's a record in the activity log over here that Julie Van Este made a change to the document, but it doesn't say which words, and I'm not seeing track changes or anything like that. So that frustrates me. I thought that was a built-in thing, but maybe it's an additional that we need to add. But anyways, yes, you can add to documents. You just would have to trust, without adding something else, you would have to trust that the changes are going to be acceptable.
Yeah.
What was that?
Add changes in bold.
Sure. Yeah, we could do that primitiveness. Who can view the history of this doc? Oh, see? Yeah, and I just don't know. Yeah, I don't know where the history is. Maybe it is here. This is new to us, too. Okay, maybe it's there. I mean, there's tons of little technical questions that need to be answered.
Okay.
Yes, Jill.
I think it'd be kind of a nice bonus to the folks who...
To everybody?
Make them feel more like...
Sure. So you're saying re-invite everybody who hasn't gotten in there?
Platform. We're not saying
Okay.
it's going to be open.
I think that's a great idea.
But even when they expand it out.
Nope. Antonia's reminding me that there's also, so in addition to the feedback forum or the feedback group on the site. There are also feedback forms if you want to write that are out on the table. And in the welcome packets, yes.
Just a quick question. Can we invite other members from our team, from our Multnomah County team, to use the site?
Yes, and so what you do is you send me their email,
Okay.
and we send them up. You don't have the power to sign up anyone for the site,
Okay.
but we could make someone on your team an administrator on the site if you know how to use this software.
What platform are you guys using?
It's really similar to WordPress. It's called BuddyPress, so it's like the social networking version of WordPress.
Okay.
Yeah.
That was my question.
Okay. Yeah. And there are, there's massive catalogs of things that you can add. Yeah, and I think, a lot of plugins are they're like $15, but you don't want to buy it unless you need it.
I would agree with that. I think that you should sort of let people use the site and figure out what's useful, and then as questions arise or problems arise, you can fix it. I think it's more. I would advocate for an iterative process rather than trying to be the Steve Jobs of we'll get it totally perfect and then release
and then
it.
lunch.
Yeah.
And I'll stand up here with a sleek little something.
You're
Yeah.
right, and you need a black turtle.
sleek
You need
yet.
a black turtleneck, and
Yeah, I'll work on it. Yeah, thanks. So any thoughts about when to add more people or other thoughts about when to add functionality?
I guess I would ask, is there anyone opposed to us inviting other corrections academics and scientists who've shown interest in SPP? Everyone nodding. I mean, really, let me know if you think if there's a reason not to, then we can keep working on it. But if everyone's like, yeah, sure, bring them in, maybe they've got expertise we can draw in, then we'll just invite largely, but then we know we can kind of keep groups, we can make our own groups, and
Yeah.
a lot of them won't sign up, I'm sure.
Yeah, I'm thinking maybe making a few key improvements, at the beginning of April, and then opening it up to the larger group. Does that sound like a reasonable? It's not even nodding. It's everyone's just, okay, thank you. David thinks it's a good idea. Okay, go get lunch.
Well, I want to just as someone from Utah beginning to walk into this, I really appreciate the work that you and Carrie and everyone in Washington have done to make it work. And I know it's a really hard task and it's clumsy to start out with, and you don't even know what needs to be done. But I think you've made a fantastic start.
Oh,
and
thank
this is
you.
going to be a really important part of the network. So thanks.
I hope so. Yeah, and like I said in the presentation yesterday, this is an experiment, and experiments are allowed to fail. Of course, I would rather that it didn't. And I feel like if we bring a lot to it, we will get a lot back. Yeah. But that's true of a lot of options in front of us. So I can't, there's no way we can decide no one person can decide for everybody what kind of priority this is. Thanks. Yeah, thank you.